Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I'm very happy to be with you today. We have listened to wonderful speeches by Dr. Peng and colleagues, and to colleagues from the industry. Now, I will talk to you about how to use fintech to promote ESG. All our speakers today talked about the importance of data, and we have big issues in terms of acquiring good data. I'm from Bloomberg, Elle. So I would now talk to you on the issue of the integration of fintech, data, and ESG. Let me remind you with a small story. I am based in Singapore. 15 years ago, I was an employee. I was a fund manager at one of your colleagues of your companies. I attended a forum. It was at the end of the global financial crisis. At the time, high yield fund, new emerging market high yield fund was buzzwords. Was very popular. Were very popular at the time. We talked about ESG at the time. It was not very well received, but today we see a full house. So as you can see, even Sitka organized a seminar, a forum for ESG. So now we understand how important ESG is to the financial industry. I'm going to share a few things. I have 3 topics. First of all, we want to talk about the global themes and trends. How do we combine ESG and fintech together? I also have case studies, data-driven industry. How do we come up with solutions? Why do we want to talk about this today? Why is it relevant now? First of all, let's talk about global themes and trends, which is ESG and fintech. How do you collaborate the two? This is different phases of ESG investing. This is a very busy table. So let's look at this. Emerging Asia, it is still trying to upgrade themselves. For example, what we're seeing is at this stage, they are still doing exclusion of targets that they do not invest. In Taiwan, Taiwan is moving on to the second phase, which is to exclude negative listing. Now Taiwan is doing screening of good investment targets. But say APAC, New Zealand, or Japan, for example, they are further ahead. Exclusion, screening, and now they are doing estimation of physical impact by their own committee. And many of companies in these countries, they all have engagement committee. So this is the developed Asia part of it, and EU is leading everybody else. Like I said, the developed Asia is now doing assessment of physical SASB, PCSDR, GRI. These, in addition to those, EU is now going for innovation. So they are integrating all these frameworks to come up with new ESG investment strategies. So Taiwan is not there yet. Well, eventually, the ultimate goal is make ESG an integral part of investment strategies and processes. In the future, we hope no one will single out ESG and hold a seminar on that. It is our final expectation. It's our expectation that eventually ESG will be integrated part of investment process. This is an ideal strategy. This is a very ideal framework. But one challenge has been mentioned by all the speakers, especially Dr. Peng, data, which is data. Without data, none of these could be done. So data is the number one challenge. So from around the world, government, competent authorities, and also the financial industry is dealing with this. They use fintech to solve the data problem. How to acquire data, data storage, data acquisition, storage, and utilization are major issues. So they are trying to use fintech to solve the problems. We also, the innovation strategy adopted by EU is precisely doing this. Machine learning and quant methods are now commonly used in EU analyzing ESG. So data is very important. But we are facing ESG data discrepancies. We do not have aligned format of data. So let me move on to a few cases, 3 cases to show you. Number one, BIS, a little small clip of video, and a case from Singapore and Hong Kong. Now, this is the first clip, ESG and fintech. Let's watch this very short clip.
Extreme weather events and changing weather patterns are disrupting businesses, economies, and livelihoods across every country and continent. To address climate change, countries have adopted the Paris Agreement. In support of this goal, many countries, businesses, and other institutions have set targets for reaching net zero emissions by 2050. Central banks and financial authorities recognize that climate change could affect financial institutions either directly or indirectly via their customers because of extreme weather events, or what is known as physical risks. Financial institutions and their customers could also be impacted through policies to mitigate climate change, new technologies, and changes in market preferences, or what we call transition risks. It is crucial for central banks and financial authorities to ensure that the financial system is resilient to climate-related financial risks. However, monitoring and analyzing climate-related financial risks is particularly challenging because of the complex nature of climate change, its differing impact across jurisdictions and sectors, and the availability of climate-related data. With these challenges in mind, the BIS Innovation Hub Singapore has launched Project Viridis. Project Viridis explores how central banks and supervisors can monitor climate-related financial risks by using an integrated regulatory data and analytics platform. Using advanced analytics, the platform integrates existing regulatory data with external climate data sources to provide authorities with insights on climate risks affecting exposures and financial stability. Search for climate-related risks linked to entities, exposures, geographies, or sectors. Send real-time alerts on climate-related financial risks. Gathering these insights is a crucial first step towards helping authorities to better understand how financial institutions are managing these risks. With Project Viridis, authorities will have access to a dashboard with clear visualizations, information on the climate-related risks that regulated entities may be exposed to, multiple climate scenarios to analyze potential risks using integrated data. Option to perform impact assessments of carbon price pathways on businesses and their respective lenders. With these features, supervisors will have the relevant tools and data to incorporate climate risks into their supervisory process conveniently. As technology and innovation transform the landscape of the financial world, it can also provide supervisory oversight, monitoring, and analytical capabilities for risks related to climate change. Project Viridis makes that transformation possible.
So that's the BIS Project Viridis. The Monetary Authority in Singapore is working with BIS on that project. It is actually part of the Project Ellipse. The BIS is working closely with many central banks and regulators, and it found that, be it central banks or financial regulators, there is a lot of overlap in the data they need. ESG is part of it. That is why now Project Viridis is born to focus on ESG data. In the video, you just heard that the project is looking forward to attract more participants because the project aims to help the central banks and regulators to leverage the systematic collection of data. As a result, we can see greater consistency in policies and regulation around the world. So I think fintech is definitely part of the equation to address the ESG issue. Now, the next case study I would like to share with you is the Monetary Authority of Singapore, because Singapore is relatively successful in this regard. Since 2015, the fintech journey already began. Singapore aims to build itself as a leading fintech hub in this region, if not in the world. So you can see the agenda includes building an ecosystem. A lot of data will have to be collected from various sources, and then they will be open resources data. More collaboration across different sectors is needed. Certification, verification are also incorporated, since they are now challenges facing a lot of institutions. So starting from the stock exchange, in Singapore, the stock exchange has been encouraging companies to disclose their ESG profiles. In addition, the stock exchange also provides guidelines as to what constitutes a good quality ESG report or disclosure. So these are efforts addressed or directed at listed companies. But we know that Project Viridis includes data not just released by companies, but also from third-party data providers or satellite data, weather-related data. Blockchain technology will be leveraged to ensure security of the data collected. So these are the efforts that have been made by Singapore. Take blockchain, for example. Stack, a local company in Singapore, is helping the Monetary Authority to introduce blockchain technology in these endeavors. Next case is Hong Kong. This is an ongoing project. We have learned from previous speakers that the United Nations Net Zero Data Public Utility has been launched. And to this end, Hong Kong has come up with a cross-agency steering group. It is hoped that the emission data will be able to collect it from the front office, middle office, or back office. And then the data, in the end, will become public utility. President Macron of France first coined this concept. So this is a very latest development. Hong Kong's cross-agency steering group is working with CDP, taking stock of performances of different companies in terms of their carbon emissions. So the low carbon notion will also be incorporated in a later stage. Next, let's talk about how data industry is leveraging ESG fintech solutions nowadays. We have heard a lot about the problem or the lack of available data in ESG fields. How can we collect, compile, and analyze such ESG data? I think a lot of fintech companies are looking into potential solutions. There are 3 levels. At the bottom, this is the easiest part. I'm sure many of you have been using some enterprise content, ESG score, or carbon emission data. So this part is easy. However, when a company transmits the data, they may use different channels. Some use SFTP, some use cloud structure. So the picture gets more complex. After all, when we construct a portfolio, we already have a lot on our plates, but now with so many data coming from different sources, this can be a problem if we want to combine and compare them. That is why now we have so-called data management service available in the sector. In other words, from content to standardized form of content so that matching, comparison can be conducted. So data management services are there to address this problem. Again, my IT staff would complain that, well, the data exists in so many different places. Data management services can, again, help us tackle that problem. Here, where does enterprise data apply financial institutions in APEC now? Here you can see they're applied in very different settings, from research integration, risk management, reporting, to engagement. So again, standardization of the content format is a very critical part. This is how we can use this data in a meaningful manner. Next, there are a few examples to show you how fintech can help us to calibrate data, to ingest data. First of all, on emission data, as you may know, in Taiwan, a lot of companies are working on their emission data disclosure, and the FSC is also encouraging the industry to do that. But we know many companies still fail to collect and disclose such data. Therefore, we can use a machine learning model to estimate the carbon emissions of different companies or sectors. Because a company may not have disclosed their emission data, it doesn't mean they are a poor quality company. Maybe they perform very well on other aspects. So we still need to do them justice by estimating the GHG emissions. And again, features across a wide variety of data sets can be incorporated in the model, ranging from industry segmentation, headcounts of the company, production data, company financials. So how does this work? Step one, we enter some data from different fields to the model, and the model can estimate the GHG emissions for non-reporting companies based on comparable companies that have released GHG emissions. So we can capture these features first and enter the model. Through machine learning, a comparison can be made before estimation of carbon emission data of non-reporting companies can be gathered. So machine learning, how does that work? The model can perform cross-validation. For example, we have a huge amount of data, but at each time we would remove certain part of the data from the model training. And each time we can go back and test the model to see the quality of the data is up to par. So this is a very common approach to cross-validation in machine learning. Next, on Scope 3, we know that for the financial institution, Scope 3 emission data is very important because many of the investees may have Scope 3 emissions, yet it's difficult to measure such emissions. In the oil and gas industry, metal and mining, or airlines industry, we can look at their underlying activities. For example, in the oil and gas industry, their use of sold products. This factor can be entered into the model, and then machine learning can perform bottom-up analysis to estimate the Category 3 emissions. This is now already feasible. However, if all fails, we can go back to the previous slide. We can go to the more general machine learning model.
So if the information is not disclosed, we can also estimate actual emission through machine learning. And you can also map that to PCAP score standard. For example, in the PCAP guideline, there are guidelines to calculate PCAP score. So these are new applications. So this is the logic of it. As you can see, this is the logic from disclosed information. If the information is not disclosed, I can estimate, I can forecast or estimate through machine learning or from bottom-up analysis. And for smaller company, we can use carbon intensity approach. Of the industry, we can use the average or the median of the carbon intensity of the industry as a proxy for this smaller company. But there are priorities. So weighting is assigned according to different relevance, and then ranking is calculated. This is Peacock. And then data management service. You can see very clearly from this chart that maybe your data come from different resources. For example, some of your information is purchased from a a third party, and you receive information or data from a third party, and some of these data can actually be used right away, and some data are only available on demand. So, as a fund manager, I don't want to spend time on deciding how often I have to require and analyze data. I want to put everything in automation. Or I want to integrate the process of outside or purchased or acquired data with internal process. For example, when we placing orders, we engage in market operations, what other data I have to make reference to? For example, information comes from different levels. Some are entity level, some are security level. You may want to also make reference to market value and for especially for fixed income products. So you have to look at multiple layers of data. So data management is very important. So you have different identifiers. For example, some use ISIN, some use QSIN as identifiers. How do I integrate them? And some outside data provider provide you information based on the entire financial holding groups, or you can look into different sources and find out tickers and information from subsidiaries. So you have to look at the entirety of the market. I think this is very. The workflow should be very easy to understand if you have IT background. The system is already there. The technology is already there for you to use to automate the entire process, to solve your problem, save your time. Physical risk, as our previous speakers talked about, it's very, very important. This is something that fintech is very good at. For example, if you look at the company's supply chain, for example, TSMC, these are the suppliers. This is the list of suppliers. You can look at different asset classes and look at different facilities, and you know where they are, and different locations will have different weather risks, typhoon, drought, or flood. So you have different weather models. This is a big project. It has to be completed by a group of experts, not by just one or two experts. Finally, I can run different scenarios. So for different times and different types of threats. IEA, they have different scenarios. For example, I can run different scenarios, and I can see a overall downside risk or upside risk, upside potential. So I can see the scenario, the risk for one company or the entire supply chain. For example, if we find factories in different locations, they may face different levels of risk in terms of flooding. So this is what fintech can help you with. This is distribution of probabilities. Why do we want to talk about this today? Again, I like to thank Sika for holding this forum. But let's come back to the topic today, to the original question. Why today? Why we talked about this? Fintech solve your carbon emission problem. If they do not disclose information, you can have a estimation through machine learning. You can run the probability distribution with fintech, or fintech can solve multiple multiple sources discrepancies of data format from different sources. Next topic, TCFD reporting. I think this is very important to you. Everybody is doing this, right? This is what Taiwan is doing. We have so many initiatives, so many regulations. Starting last year, we have to do this and this and this. Let's come back to this. In TCFD, there are important pillars. For example, greenhouse gas is one disclosure item, and scenario analysis. All these analysis relied on data. I need to have good data coverage, good data quality. In this aspect, when you have to process a large amount of data, you need fintech. You need to automate. What I'm saying is fintech could be a very useful tool for you to use. Save you a lot of time, save you a lot of money. This is my presentation. I hope my presentation is helpful. Thank you very much. Thank you.